The first sound I heard wasn't her voice. It was the sound of something fragile snapping. A sharp crack that echoed through the back hallway of our house, right behind the old storage closet we never used. I remember freezing halfway through carrying a box of winter coats, wondering if the shelves had finally collapsed. But then I heard her whisper, fast, breathless, panicked. "Not here. What if he comes back?" My heart dropped so hard I thought the box would slip out of my hands. I wasn't supposed to even be home. I had left only 10 minutes earlier, just to grab the stupid garage door remote I forgot at work. I wasn't gone long enough for anyone to notice. Or so I thought. Then a man's voice answered her. Calm. Too calm. He won't. He never notices anything. My knees buckled so violently I had to lean against the wall. That hallway suddenly felt narrower, like the house itself was trying to crush me. I didn't move, not even to breathe properly, because something in me already knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't furniture falling over. This wasn't a prank or a dream or a misheard conversation. This was my life breaking in real time. I shouldn't have listened. I know some people say you should walk away to protect your heart, but my heart refused. It glued my ear to that closet door. "I'm serious," she whispered again. "Ellis is getting suspicious. He asked why I smelled different when I got home yesterday." My own name hit me harder than anything else. I pressed my fist to my mouth to stop whatever pathetic sound my throat was about to make. I was already crying without tears, if that makes sense, like my body was preparing to collapse before my mind caught up. The guy chuckled softly. "Then stop letting him smell you." My stomach twisted. I didn't even understand what that meant. I didn't want to understand. I felt myself shrinking, like I was disappearing molecule by molecule. 7 years of marriage, and here I was, reduced to a ghost listening outside my own closet. Then came the part I'll remember forever. She said, "Honestly, if I had to choose again, I'd never pick him. Not in any version of my life." Everything inside me went quiet. Not numb, quiet. Like the kind of silence that hits right before a storm tears your home apart. And in that silence, I stepped back. I set the box down so gently it didn't make a sound. I didn't even wipe my face. I just walked straight to the front door, opened it, and left barefoot into the cold evening air. No yelling, no begging, no confrontation. Just a man, pathetic, heartbroken, slipping out of his own life without making a single sound. She didn't know I heard. Not yet. And the worst part? As I walked away, all I could think was, how long has she been saying things like that about me? I didn't go far that night. I walked down 3 blocks until my legs gave out, and I sat on a frozen bench outside a closed barber shop, like some homeless version of the man I used to be. I remember watching my breath puff out into the dark air and thinking, she's still in there. With him, laughing, touching, saying more things I'll never unhear if I go back. But I didn't go back. I just sat there for what felt like hours, too cowardly to move, too broken to cry. I didn't even have my coat. My phone was still on the charger inside, next to the note I'd written the day before reminding her to eat lunch because she'd skipped it 3 days straight. I thought that note made me a good husband. Now I just felt like a footnote in a story she'd already moved on from. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. Who was I going to call? My brother Harlan would have told me to man up and burn the house down, and my mother would have blamed me for not being exciting enough. I didn't need that. I needed silence. I needed not to exist. And that's exactly what I gave her. I didn't walk back into the house. I didn't send a text. I just vanished. When morning came, I used a stranger's phone to call out from work, telling them I was sick. I didn't mention I was lying on the floor of a cheap roadside motel 5 miles from my own bed. I stared at the cracked ceiling tiles and imagined how it must have looked from her side. Me gone, the house silent, no confrontation, no questions. I wondered if she'd panicked, if she'd told him to leave, if she'd called my name. But the truth came fast. Around noon, I finally borrowed another phone and looked up our shared bank account. My hands were trembling as I logged in. I saw the charge instantly, a $147 dinner from a downtown rooftop restaurant we used to go to on our anniversaries. Time-stamped at 9:41 p.m., barely 2 hours after I walked out. She hadn't even waited until I was cold. I stared at that transaction like it was a slap across the soul. Did she even realize I might have hurt her? Did she think I'd just wandered off into the night, clueless and confused, maybe chasing a lost dog? Or did she not care? Maybe my quiet exit gave her a clean slate. Maybe that's what she was hoping for. But here's the worst part. What broke me wasn't the betrayal itself. It wasn't her voice, or his voice, or the lies, or even the laughing. What broke me was how little she hesitated. No pause, no guilt, no remorse. Just dinner, just moving on, like I was never real. That night, back at the motel, I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I called the one person I hadn't spoken to in years, my dad. He left my mom when I was 9, and I grew up thinking he was the villain. But he picked up on the second ring, and before I could say a word, he said, "So, she finally did it, huh?" I hadn't told him anything, but he knew. Maybe heartbreak runs in the bloodline. 2 full days passed before she tried to call me. Not because she noticed I was missing, no. I know that because I watched her. From less than 30 feet away, I had checked into the motel under a fake name and used cash. The place had a back lot that looked directly into the alley behind our street, and with binoculars I bought from a pawn shop, I could see the faint glow of our bedroom lamp flickering through the blinds. I sat there in my car, shivering under a cheap blanket, watching my own house like it belonged to someone else. Sometimes I imagined it did. That maybe the man living inside was happier, smarter, stronger. That he hadn't stood silently in a hallway listening to his wife offer his whole life up like it was a phase she'd outgrown. On the 3rd morning, I saw him leave. Not through the front like a decent man, but through the side gate like a practiced secret. He wore a hoodie this time. New one. Not like the sleek jacket he had on that night behind the closet door. I watched him hop into a truck I didn't recognize and speed off like he had somewhere better to be than my life. She came out about 30 minutes later. Hair curled, perfume cloud trailing behind her. She wasn't crying, not even anxious. She was humming. I watched her open the door to her car with the same smile she used to give me when we'd drive to the lake on Sundays. I had to grip the steering wheel just to stop myself from kicking my own door open and screaming. Instead, I took out the small black notebook I'd been keeping beside me since that first night and scribbled something down. A single sentence, "She's smiling more now." Not for me, not because of me, and it killed me. That afternoon, her call came through to the motel's front desk. I hadn't told them who I really was, but I left a message for myself just in case she looked. Just in case she pretended to look. The front desk girl, a teenager with pink hair and too much eyeliner, knocked on my door and handed me the slip. "Your wife called. She says she's confused." I took the note. Didn't answer. Inside the room, I listened to her voicemail over and over again. Her voice was light, strangely composed. "Hey babe, just checking in. I thought you were at work, but I guess not. Call me, okay? Just call me. No, I love you. No panic. Just light confusion." As if I was an appointment she missed. As if I was late coming home with groceries. I didn't call. I just deleted the message and stared at the cracked motel mirror, wondering how long she'd been training herself to live without me. How many times she had rehearsed this moment in her head. Maybe she even hoped I'd disappear on my own so she wouldn't have to play the villain. But I wasn't gone. I was watching, and I was writing everything down. Every movement, every lie, every choice. Not because I wanted revenge. Not exactly, but because I wanted proof. That I wasn't crazy. That I wasn't imagining the cold. That I wasn't the one who let go first. And because one day soon, she was going to turn around, reach out for me, and find nothing there. Only silence. And maybe, if I did it right, that silence would haunt her longer than any shouting ever could. It started with the old fireproof safe in our bedroom closet. The one she told me never to open. I used to think that was normal. Boundaries. Personal space. She always said, some things are better left untouched, like it was about tax papers or old family photos. I respected it. For years, I never questioned it. But now, everything she ever asked me to leave alone felt like a red flag I'd folded into a napkin and set on the dinner table. 3 days after I left, I snuck into the house when I knew she'd be gone. I waited until her car pulled out of the driveway, counted to 500, then slipped in through the back door with a spare key I never gave her a reason to know about. Jasper, the dog she barely noticed, didn't bark. He just sat there at the door, wagging his tail slowly, like he'd been expecting me. I walked through the kitchen like a stranger in someone else's house. Everything was exactly the same. My coffee mug still hanging by the handle, my flannel still folded on the chair, my half-finished jigsaw puzzle on the dining table. I could smell her perfume in the hallway, that sweet, expensive kind she only started wearing after she got the promotion. The kind I once thought she wore for me. I went straight to the closet. The safe was still in the corner, beneath a pile of shoe boxes. For a second, I just stared at it, thinking maybe I was about to find nothing. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe everything I'd imagined was just that, imagination. But then I remembered the voice behind the door. I'd never pick him again. That wasn't imagination. That was her. I tried the code I'd always suspected, her late father's birthday. It clicked on the second try. Inside was no will, no documents, no sentimental boxes of memories like I used to picture when she said boundaries. There were photos, dozens of them. Not of me, not of us, of him, the man from the voice, the man from the side gate, taken at different restaurants, beaches, hotel rooms, some selfies, some candid shots like she was documenting a second life. Her smile in those pictures, it wasn't the one she gave me. It was younger, wilder, full of something I hadn't seen in years. Passion maybe, or guilt, disguised as happiness. And then there was a note, folded neatly, resting at the bottom of the safe under all the photos. Just one line. If it all falls apart, this is what I choose. I read it 3 times before I could process what it meant. She had prepared for this. Not just the cheating, but the fallout, the exposure, the unraveling. And she'd already decided whose side she was on when it did. It wasn't mine. I took a picture of everything. Every photo. The note. I didn't take anything with me. I wanted her to feel safe a little longer. I wanted her to believe the house was untouched, the safe unopened, the truth still hidden. I wanted her to believe she was in control. Because the truth is, control is like a trap. The longer someone thinks they have it, the more they lean on it. And Marlene was leaning hard. I left the house without a sound. Jasper tried to follow me, but I knelt down, kissed his head, and whispered, "Not yet, buddy." As I closed the door behind me, I realized something I hadn't felt since the night I walked out. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was awake. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because something had shifted. It was like a door had opened inside me, a dark one I used to keep locked under the excuse of love. But after reading that note, if it all falls apart, this is what I choose. I couldn't stop thinking. Had it already fallen apart months ago, and I was just too blind to notice? The next morning, I went back to the motel lobby, logged into the ancient guest computer, and started digging. I didn't know what I was looking for at first. Maybe nothing. Maybe just something to help me understand how the woman I married had become this stranger with backup plans and a secret lover with side entrances. But then I remembered something from years ago, an old email address she once used in college. She used to laugh about it because it had a ridiculous name in it. Something with sunflower. I typed it into a few social platforms. Dead ends. Then I tried searching for it directly with quotation marks. And there it was. A forum post. From over a decade ago. A relationship advice thread. The username was hers. I knew it instantly because she always used the same combination of numbers tied to her first apartment. She'd posted about an emotionally slow boyfriend who didn't know how to challenge her. Said she was tempted to go back to someone more exciting from her past. Said she stayed with the boring one because he was the kind you marry, not the kind you crave. The year on the post? 2015, the year we got engaged. I sat there staring at the screen like I was watching myself being erased from the past. She'd felt this way even before the wedding. She wasn't just bored now, she'd never been sure. I was the stability pick, the guy she settled for while her heart pointed in another direction. But what hit me hardest wasn't what she wrote. It was the reply. One single comment, left by a now-deleted user. Then go to the one who sets your blood on fire. Life's too short to waste on a backup plan. That comment had over 40 upvotes. She replied, "You're right. I think I'm just scared. But maybe fear is just the final barrier before freedom." I leaned back in the stiff motel chair, breathing through my nose like I was trying not to scream. So it wasn't just the betrayal in the present. It was the betrayal embedded in our foundation. A decision made long before I even said I do. She'd chosen me not because she believed in us, but because I was the safe harbor from a storm she still wanted to dance in. I copied everything, screenshots, URLs, timestamps. I emailed it all to a burner account I made the same day I walked out. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to since our wedding night. Her old roommate, Talia. They used to be inseparable until something happened between them. Marlene always said it was a drift caused by distance and time, but I never bought it. Talia was at our wedding, then gone the next month. Like she vanished. No drama, no fight, just silence. So I searched for her name, found her LinkedIn, messaged her. I didn't expect a reply, but 3 hours later, I got one. 5 words. You finally found the truth? My stomach dropped. I asked her to meet. She agreed, under one condition: no recording, no games, no Marlene. We met at a coffee shop 20 minutes from town. She looked different, happier, older, free. When she sat down across from me, she didn't waste time. She cheated on you the year you proposed, Talia said. It wasn't just an affair. It was a decision. She told me everything. I couldn't sit by and watch her ruin you, so I cut ties. That's why we stopped talking. I blinked, silent. She wasn't angry, just tired, like she'd been carrying this longer than I had. Who was it? I asked, barely able to speak. She gave me the name. Not the man I'd seen at the house. Someone else. Someone older. Someone who, apparently, still sends her birthday gifts every March. I didn't go there to fight him. I want to see his face. The man Talia named, Rowan Curtis, wasn't someone I had ever met, but the moment I looked him up, I recognized him. Not from real life, but from a framed photo Marlene used to keep tucked in her old keepsake box. She told me he was a professor she admired during college. I never questioned it. She spoke of him like a distant mentor, respectful, formal, harmless. But when I searched his name again, a few things stood out. He had been married. Twice. No kids. Mid-50s now, retired from academia, but still giving private lectures and writing books on emotional intelligence in relationships. That part nearly made me laugh out loud. I tracked down an upcoming talk he was giving at a bookstore 2 towns over. I signed up using a fake name, wore a plain gray hoodie, and kept my distance. I didn't expect to feel anything. But when he walked out onto that little platform and smiled at the crowd, I felt something sharp twist inside me. He had that effortless charm, the kind that makes people lean in without realizing. He told stories. He made people laugh. And all I could think about was the possibility that while I was saving up for a ring, this man was sending her handwritten letters, touching her neck, giving her something I never had a chance to compete with. After the event, I waited until the last fan left. He was packing up his notes when I walked over and said his name. Rowan. He turned with a polite smile. Yes. I waited. Let the pause stretch long enough to be awkward. Then I said, You don't know me, but you knew Marlene. His whole posture changed. Not fear, not guilt, just this stillness. He didn't deny it, didn't ask who I was, just nodded slowly and said, I haven't spoken to her in a long time. But you did, I said, when she was with me. He set his pen down and sighed through his nose. She was confused. That's all it ever was. That line hit me harder than I thought it would. Confused. Like she was a child who wandered off in the store. Like her betrayal was an accident. She told me I was her choice, I said quietly. She said she wanted the boring man. He didn't flinch. Then she chose wrong. I should have hit him. I should have raised my voice. But instead, I smiled. Don't worry, I said. She's still confused. But this time, she's going to learn what it feels like to be left behind. He looked at me like he didn't understand. And that was fine, because none of them would see it coming. Not him. Not her. I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. I needed her to see herself the way I had come to see her, through the silence, the lies, the years she spent performing love like a rehearsed line in a play. That's why I didn't scream when I found the pictures. I didn't confront her when I met the man she'd built a secret life around. And I didn't break when I read the letter she hid beneath her underwear drawer, signed, R. I simply waited. And when I was ready, I logged into the shared cloud account she forgot we set up years ago when she couldn't figure out how to back up her phone. She'd stopped using it for everyday things, but her laptop still auto-synced to it when it was plugged in. And 2 days ago, she plugged it in. A glitch, she would later call it. But it wasn't. I saw everything. Screenshots of text threads with names like Mallory and Client A, photos from hotels and cities she never told me she visited, and, most of all, voice memos. I didn't expect those. I played one. Her voice came through the speaker, casual, almost amused. I don't even feel bad anymore. I think he wants to be lied to. That's the worst part. He's so harmless, I almost pity him. I sat in the motel room and played it again. And again, that was her truth. Not the filtered version she gave to friends or the "we're working on things" version she used at holiday dinners. No, that was her real voice. Detached. Superior. like I was an extra in her life story, holding her coat while she climbed into someone else's bed. I didn't cry. Not this time. I smiled, because I already knew what I was going to do. Earlier that week, I contacted our financial advisor and asked about dissolving the joint savings account. Quietly, legally, I had rights. I had proof. And more importantly, I had timing. I waited until she scheduled a spa retreat with co-workers and then moved every penny to a private account under my name, an account I opened over a year ago for emergencies. Apparently, betrayal counts. The next morning, I canceled every shared subscription, deactivated the utilities in my name, and filed the change of address forms. I had my mail rerouted, my phone plan separated, and as the final step, I transferred the deed of the house into a trust, one her name was never on. She never wanted to be on it, she said, just in case. Irony's cruel like that. By sunset, everything tied to me was gone. She called that night. Twice. The first time, I didn't answer. The second time, she left a message. Ellis, something's wrong with the bank. And the gas bill is saying it's inactive? Can you please call me? I think there's a glitch. I didn't call back. Because it wasn't a glitch. It was goodbye. I watched her pull into the driveway from 2 blocks away. She moved fast. Panic always makes people reckless. Her tires screeched a little when she turned in. I imagined her rushing to the front door, digging through her purse for keys she couldn't find because her hands were shaking too hard. She hadn't been home since the weekend. Her spa trip ran long, I guess. Or maybe she'd stayed with him. Doesn't matter. Because when she stepped into the house expecting life to be exactly as she left it, she found something else entirely. Silence. An absence. I didn't need to leave a dramatic note or a trail of evidence. The empty closet. The quiet fridge. The walls stripped of pictures. My name removed from every record, account, and legal tie. That was the message. I hadn't left in anger. I'd simply left. Later, she'd call me again, this time not with irritation, but with fear. Her voice in the voicemail was soft, almost unfamiliar. Ellis, please call me. I don't know what's going on. Please, can we talk? But by then, I was already gone. Really gone. Not hiding in a motel. Not watching through binoculars. Not holding my breath while waiting for love to resurrect itself. I was standing in a sunlit cafe in a different town, sipping decent coffee for the first time in months, listening to the quiet hum of strangers around me. The woman behind the counter had smiled when I walked in, warm, genuine. Her name tag said Lena. She had ink on her arms and didn't look like someone Marlene would ever respect, which made her even more magnetic. I didn't know where life was taking me next. I didn't have some big revenge plan. No courtroom drama. No exposed scandal. That wasn't the story I wanted. I'd spent too long being invisible to a woman who only saw me when it was convenient. And now? Now I saw myself. And what I saw wasn't weak, wasn't boring, wasn't safe. I was someone who could love deeply and walk away quietly. Someone who didn't need to burn it all down to prove he existed. A week later, I got a final message from Marlene. Just 6 words. Please tell me this isn't final. I didn't reply, because it was. And for the first time in my entire adult life, that felt like a beginning.